Hi, everyone. This is the Introducing AWS CodeStar talk. So thank you for coming. I'm Leo Zhadnovsky. I'm a Principal Solutions Architect at AWS. And we also have Henry Han here. He's a Senior Technical Product Manager for AWS CodeStar. And so during this session, we're going to be talking about, first we're just going to talk about what is DevOps, what is the Amazon DevOps story. We're going to talk about our portfolio of code services, and then Henry is going to dive deep into CodeStar and talk about what it is and what it does, and do a demo of it for you. So today's software creation distribution is easier and faster than ever. We see that startups can take on giants with little to no funding ahead of time. Getting your software into the hands of millions is only a download away. And your ability to move fast is paramount to your ability to fight off disruption. And so why do we care about DevOps? Why is it important? Well, according to the Puppet Labs State of the DevOps survey, this is from the 2015 survey. They find that high-performing IT organizations deploy 30 times more frequently with 200 times shorter lead times, and they have 60 times fewer failures and can recover 168 times faster from failure. It also finds that lean management and continuous delivery practices create the conditions for delivering value faster and more sustainably. And high performance is achievable whether your apps are greenfield, brownfield, or legacy. So even if you have apps that can't fully take advantage of microservices architecture, you can still achieve a lot from adopting DevOps. So what is DevOps though, right? DevOps is a combination of cultural philosophies, practices, and tools. And these increase an organization's ability to deliver applications and services at a high velocity. And it allows you to evolve and improve your products at a faster pace than if you use traditional software development and infrastructure management processes. This speed then allows companies and organizations to better serve their customers and compete more effectively in the market. So DevOps also, aside from the technical part of it, has a cultural component too. So what that means is that you have your developers and your operators coming together, and there's no more silos. So you don't have developers writing code and then throwing it over the wall to operators to deploy, and you don't have operators who don't know what they're actually deploying or how it works or why. So you have shared responsibility across teams. You have ownership, so the team that writes a product owns the product, from writing the code to building the code, to testing the code, to deploying the code, and maintaining it once it's up and running. And you have shared visibility and communication. So everybody that's on the service team for a specific product, they can see all the metrics on whether it's up or not, how it's performing, and there's a unified communications channel, whether you're a developer or you're an ops. So one thing that we see a lot of our customers doing to adopt DevOps is to move away from large monolithic architectures to smaller decoupled services. So you break your applications down to smaller pieces, and you can iterate on those pieces in parallel and a lot quicker. And so the combination of microservices and increased release frequency means you have way more deployments, and that can mean operational challenges. If you're deploying 10 times a day, 100 times a day, versus previously you could have been deploying your app maybe once a quarter. That means you can't manually do your deployments anymore. You have to do them automatically. So you have to do automation, and in order to avoid those operational challenges. So you need ways to release the software safely and reliably with automation. And so that's where continuous integration and continuous delivery and continuous deployment come in. And we'll talk about what that actually means. Another practice that's really important is treating your infrastructure as code. So you treat your infrastructure just like you treat your application code. Now, one of the really nice things about AWS in general is that you can do almost anything you can do in the web console through our APIs, which means you can script things and you can automate things. So we have a service called CloudFormation that allows you to use templates to declare the AWS resources that you want to launch. and provision them, and then use that template to actually provision them. You can then check these templates into a version control system, such as GitHub, and iterate on them just as you iterate on a piece of code. You can then easily share the templates, replicate environments across, prod and dev, for example, and it ultimately saves you a lot of time, and it also reduces the room for error because everything can be traced back down to a CloudFormation template. Another thing that's really important with DevOps is to have strong monitoring and logging. So you want to analyze your metrics and your logs. You want to look at application logs and access logs and things like CloudTrail logs in AWS and VPC flow logs. So you want to know what's going on at all times, and you want to understand the real-time performance of your infrastructure and your application. So X-Ray, which is another service that I went into preview today, it can help you there too with both Lambda functions and regular instances. And so you want to also set up automation for your monitoring and logging. So you want to get actionable alerts on metrics that matter, and you want to act on those alerts, ideally with automatic remediation. So just some of the benefits of DevOps, right? So you have teams that work more efficiently and effectively because they're working together. You're using automation to work effectively and release software more rapidly. You bake reliability and security into your automated practices. So a good thing to do is in your continuous integration, continuous deployment pipeline, bake in security testing automatically, right? So every time you bake a new Amazon machine image, for example, you run a test against it to make sure that it's patched properly. You can do that kind of thing. This ultimately allows you to scale up quicker and to build your software at a faster pace. So let's take a look at an example here. And that's Amazon.com. Let's take a look at how Amazon as a company actually evolved into a microservices architecture. So in 2001, Amazon.com was a big monolithic application, and it had a hierarchical organization scheme. And by 2009, it had evolved into smaller decoupled services. So if you look at the Amazon.com website, each part of that website is a different service. They each have their own architectures and SLAs they have to meet and so on and so forth. And it also evolved into this concept of two pizza teams. So what a two pizza team generally means is if you can't feed your team with two pizzas, your team's too big. This is the general sizing advice for your team. And so under this model, things went a lot better. We were releasing software faster, but we felt that we could still improve. And so in 2009, we conducted a study. The study was called Understanding Amazon's Software Development Process Through Data. And we wanted to find out how long it takes for code to go from check-in to being available in production. This included the time that it took to build, test, and deploy our software. And we learned that this was taking a long time, actually. It was taking on the order of weeks. And we didn't want it to take weeks. We wanted it to take hours, maybe even shorter than that, right? And so what we found out was a lot of our processes had a lot of human manual work involved. And so that is what was actually taking up most of the time. So developers would use tickets or emails to track their release process. So for example, developers could email or ticket a bunch of other developers to run a build, at which point those requests would pile up and queue up before being run as a batch. And then once the build was done, there'd be new tickets to deploy the software, and these would also batch up. So there's just a lot of time being spent waiting for humans to do something. So as a result, when you add up all the waiting, this would take weeks, and we wanted it to take hours and not weeks. So we started building tools to automate our release process for software. And so the first thing that resulted from this was our pipeline service. So this was an internal service, and it automated these parts of our software release process where we were waiting for humans. So it would automatically transition code from check-in to build to test to deployment. And we saw a lot of benefits for our developers. It was way faster, it was safer, there was a lot less manual work going on. It was a standardized process, so anyone had the option of using pipelines, and so even if you moved across teams, you'd be used to a common deployment pipeline. And there's also visualization of the process. So you could see where your code was. If you had committed some code, you could see it was in testing, was it in deployment. And so this continued to work really well. And by 2014, we had thousands of service teams across Amazon. We were building a lot of microservices. We were practicing continuous delivery. We had many environments from staging to beta to production. And so in 2014, we did 50 million deploys during that year across Amazon. So every year, we also conduct a survey of our software developers, and we kind of ask them, what tools are you happy with? What tools could be better? Things that we could do to improve their lives as developers and make their jobs easier. So that year, in 2014, we found that only one specific service was correlated statistically with happier developers, and that is our pipeline service. So I guess you could say that continuous delivery means happier developers. And so when we tell the story to our customers, a lot of times we hear, where do you start to go on this journey? So it's actually not a simple answer. It's going to be different for every customer. It can involve, changing your organization, your culture, your processes. But one thing that we see that's common across almost all of our customers is the need to have a good pipeline, right, between the different phases of your application lifecycle. And so with that, let me talk about our code services really quickly. We've got code pipeline, code deploy, code commit, code build. And here's how these map to the software release process. So for version control, we have code commit. Is a managed version control service. It is fully compatible with Git. It's integrated with IAM. For build, we have code build. So if you want to build some artifacts or Docker containers, not have to worry about spinning up the Docker containers or running the worker instances for that, we've got code build. For unit testing, you can use code build. For end-to-end testing, UI testing, security testing, you probably want to use some third-party tooling. And for deploying your code, whether to EC2 instances or to on-premise servers, you can use code deploy, which is our deployment service. And for the orchestration of going between these stages, you would use code pipeline. So that takes us to, how do I put all this together? If I have a piece of software, how do I know which of these I need to use? How do I set them up really quickly? And that's where AWS CodeStar comes in. So Henry Han is going to come up here and talk to you about CodeStar and do a demo for you as well.
All right, thank you, Leo. Let me go ahead and get something set up here real quickly. All right, so thank you everybody for being here this afternoon. I'm excited to come up here and talk about CodeStar. This is new as of today. We announced this. Werner talked about this in the keynote today. So I'm the technical product manager for CodeStar. I'm actually part of the team that does the code services, so code commit, code build, code deploy, and code pipeline. So when we started looking at simplifying the overall development process, we started taking a look at some of the key problems. Leo was highlighting some of the things that we saw in terms of efficiencies that we gained inside Amazon, and some of those things we've incorporated into products that he talked about, but we really wanted to pull it all together and make the process of getting started on AWS as quickly as possible. So CodeStar, AWS CodeStar, is the latest product to help you do that. And it really is about quickly getting set up with your development project on AWS. It's also about being able to collaborate with team members, so being able to build software. That's a very frequently a collaborative process. And then, of course, we want to give you all the tools that enable you to take advantage of an Agile or a CI type of process. So today, I'm actually going to run through live demos. If stuff breaks, you'll know why. I'm going to try to make them all work, but I've decided to go without a net today and show you the real thing. So let's go ahead and get started. So if you actually go to CodeStar in the console today, this is what you'd see for the first time, sort of one of our introduction pages. But I'm just going to go ahead and jump into this. So the first thing that I'm going to highlight is that we include a set of project templates. There are about 20 project templates that are combinations of programming languages or frameworks. application types, and the target compute platform. So those might be Amazon EC2, it might be AWS Lambda. So there are a number of choices that you have, and that combination is packaged into these things we call project templates. So I'll show you how you might come in here and do some quick filtering. So this is just to make it easy for you to look around and find things that you're interested in. You can, of course, do type ahead. Let's try Alexa. We have some Alexa skills. Maybe I just want a static website. We have that. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to build a web application, a serverless web application using AWS Lambda. And I would say start a timer, but I hope that it's actually not going to take long enough that you need to look at a timer. But I'm going to go ahead and kick this off. And we're going to go ahead and give this a project name. So at this point, all I've done is I've clicked on a project template, and I've given this thing a name. And what this page basically does is it summarizes all the things that you're getting in your project. And that includes a sample application, so we actually will have a running sample application by the time this is done. We'll include all the code services that are required for source control and actually release automation. We're also including the runtime, the AWS Lambda infrastructure that's required. And of course, this is integrated with AWS services like CloudWatch, so you'll have the monitoring capabilities as well. So I'm going to go ahead and hit create on this. Actually, let me do something real quickly. I've been creating a lot of different projects. I want to make sure I don't have a name collision here. All right. So while these things are being provisioned, we actually guide you through some steps before you actually land in your project, in case you want to do this, to connect to the source repository for your project. So we're spinning some things up in the background. We want to make it easy for you to start coding. So one of the first things that we'll do is offer to help connect you to the source repository with the toolkit, the AWS toolkit for Visual Studio, which has been updated to support CodeStar, the AWS toolkit for Eclipse, or if you're just interested in command line tools with a plain Git client, you can do that as well. I'll just show you one of these examples here. Now, I actually have a Windows machine, so we'll actually detect that. If you had a Mac or if you had Linux, we'd do that as well. You can, of course, select those options on your own. And we just have simple steps for getting this connected. And the repo should be available here in a second. But I'm going to go ahead and show you a project that's been provisioned. We'll come back to this one. So once all this provisioning takes place, we're going to drop you on the project dashboard. Every project includes a project dashboard. And the project dashboard is really a way of summarizing, giving an overview of your entire project. And this project dashboard will include a number of different tiles. And of course, we have a welcome tile that gives you some steps to get started. There's a code commit tile. This actually summarizes the code commit, the commits that have been occurring in this project. We actually have the application endpoint. I'll come back to that in just a second. We have the continuous deployment, which is the pipeline aspect of your project. We have a team wiki tile that you can come in here and edit. Just simple markdown if you had playbooks or things that you wanted to share with your team. We've pre-populated those with some suggestions on things to do when you're getting started. And we also have a Jira integration. We'll talk about that in a little while. But let me come back and jump back here. If I actually show you, this is a running web application that uses API Gateway and Lambdas to serve up a web application. That is a live application. If you actually went to that right now, that is an application running in my account. And that was all built with AWS CodeStar through that project template. Now, that's not the end of it. I want to go and actually do something with that. So I'm going to jump back over to my project, and we're going to take advantage of the steps to get connected. So here's my code commit tile. I'm actually going to hit this connect link here. There are different places that you can get to this, but I'm going to go ahead and hit connect. I'm going to again use the command line tools option that I showed before. And I've kind of been through this, so I'm going to just hit the copy. So that's actually going to give me the command I'm going to run here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. And I've got my command window open here. And I've done this a little bit quickly, but the IAM permissions that are included we'll talk about in a little bit for team members. But one of the things that we also help you do is identify what the specific steps are for IAM to get connected to your repo. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. We're cloning that. That's actually cloning to my laptop here. We're done. And I should see an AWS SF Summit path here, and there it is. So let's jump back over to my dashboard. And here's my application. By the way, this application changes colors based on the time of the day. So it looks like the sun is starting to set. It's going to take us a lot less time to make this change, but if you look at this later and it's a different color, you'll know why. So it says, congratulations, I've created this application. I'm going to do something very simple, and I'm just going to go and change some of that. So let's go take a look at what's here. So I know I have this index.html, something simple. All right, so here I've got the HTML for the congratulations that shows up on the page. I'm just going to go ahead and make a quick change here. All right, we'll go ahead and save that. I'll go ahead and, let's see, we'll go ahead and commit. We're actually going to push that. All right, I've just committed a change to my source control for the project that I've got running here. And what we're going to do is we're going to come back over here, and in a second, what you're going to see is that my pipeline is going to start doing something. And specifically what's going to happen is I've made a commit to the source repo, which is connected to a code pipeline. That will automatically trigger the release automation process that will push that change all the way down the pipeline and update my Lambda functions. And very specifically, we're actually we're using a serverless application model in this project. It's actually doing all the serverless application model updates that are required. There's none of this that I need to do by hand. So let me press refresh, force the page. There we go. You can actually see that there's activity that's starting to occur in my pipeline. Now I could sit here and follow this. Now Leo was talking about this developer satisfaction, this survey that we do internally, and that code pipelines were linked to happier developers. And he even mentioned that it was taking weeks, and then it was taking maybe days, and then it was taking hours, and maybe even less than that. I think we'll be able to do this in less than an hour. So while we're waiting for that, I'm actually going to show you a few other features, and we'll come back to that in a second. Software development, in most cases, is a collaborative process. Leo was talking about these two pizza teams, these teams that can be fed with two pizzas. What that software development process is really about collaboration. And if you're building on AWS, collaboration means access to a lot of different resources. That may mean access to that source repo that I just talked about, the actual resources like the Lambda functions that are being built. And putting all of that together can be complex. But if you're really just interested in adding some to your project quickly, CodeStar introduces a role-based permissions management system. It's all built on IAM. If you're familiar with IAM, that's our access management service. But we've built this on top of that service. So you get all the benefits and the power and the flexibility of that service, but with a simplified interface. So I'm going to go ahead in here, and I've got this project. I'm an owner for this project. I'm going to decide I wanted to add, say, Leo. I can come in here, and I'd already set up Leo. He's a member of one of my other projects, so we already see his information. I'm going to go ahead and click Add, and there we go. Leo now actually has access to this entire project. He has access to make code changes, to push code changes through, and to update the application. And that's all I did. Very simple. Now, if I have Rob, who's my manager, who wants to come along and work on this project as well, and maybe I haven't added him here, we've actually simplified that process as well. As I mentioned, this is all built on IAM. And so if I'm going to create a new user, I actually need the underlying IAM user. So I'm going to go ahead and say Rob IAM. We'll just say Rob for now, and we'll say Rob fake email address. And we'll make him a contributor too. I'm going to go ahead and hit create. Now we've actually integrated with the IM console to very quickly create this user for you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click create user. We've actually passed all the information to IM to configure this user. There's no permissions creation, there's no permission setting, there's no policy that you're looking at. We've actually just created that user. And at this point, I can send an email to Rob to send him all the information he needs to go and log into the console. And I'm assuming that I did that. That's a real password and username, so I'm not going to show all that. But I'm going to go ahead and hit close. That will send me back to the CodeStar console, and you can see that Rob has been added. Now, at any given point in time, I can go change those permissions. I can go remove somebody. I can add others. But it's that simple. Role-based permissions management in CodeStar. All right. Let me head back to the dashboard here. Now, with the code pipeline and source repository and all the other things that are included that are development tools, there's one piece that we don't have, and that's issue management, or some way to do work planning and work tracking. So we've actually partnered with Atlassian to include an integration with Atlassian Jira software. I'm going to show you real quickly what that looks like. There is a Jira tile in the dashboard, and I'm just going to show how you connect here. Just like we did for connecting to your source repo, we've got some inline or in-console instructions for helping you walk through the integration with Jira. So the first step is I have to have Jira running someplace, either that's internet accessible server that I'm running or I'm using the Jira Cloud offering. But once I have that, and I have one set up, I can type that in here, and we will automatically fill out the rest of the instructions that you need to go ahead and get connected to your Jira. Now, I'm not going to go through all of these steps, but I am going to come back here and show you what that might look like once you've integrated. So here I have my Jira tile with preloaded issues and tasks that I've made for myself. These are obviously silly ones. I did book my flights and I booked my hotel and all those things, so those are actually done. But that's the simple way of getting tasks and issues integrated into your project. All right, so a little while ago, we were deploying our application change. Oh, it's almost done. I think I actually did look at the clock when that was launched, and I think that was about 5 minutes ago. We'll check something out real quickly. There we go. It's probably in the process of cleaning up a few things, but my code actually deployed. That is the same link that we had before, and that's it. I have now gone from creating a project with nothing to a running application to having real code deployed on AWS with all the tools that I need, and I even have issue planning with Atlassian Jira software. So let's see. Why don't we switch back over to the other deck here. I think we want to be on slide 36-ish. Oh. This was the safety net, by the way, just in case something didn't work. All right, so I just wanted to summarize. So that was AWS CodeStar in a nutshell. Go ahead and try it out. The three to four things that you'd remember on here we've got on the slide. Start developing on AWS in just a few minutes. You go from zero to an entire development project with a running application in just a few minutes. Work across your team. We help you set up the team membership with the right permissions for your project. We include all the tools that you need for that software development cycle that makes developers happier. And then we have this set of project templates that you can go choose and sort and look through to decide what is right for you, whether that's a web application or web service or something else. And before I go here, there's one more thing that I want to mention. we are able to tell you about an exclusive offer that Atlassian has created, and that is if you create an Atlassian Jira project through CodeStar, you'll actually get 5 free users. So that is exclusive to CodeStar. I'm not sure that they've ever actually done something like this before, but when you go ahead and create your CodeStar project and get started, go ahead and take advantage of the offer, create your Atlassian Jira software project with 5 free users. So with that, I wanted to thank everybody for taking the time to come and check out CodeStar. Go ahead and check it out in the console. That's the console.aws.amazon.com/CodeStar. Our marketing site where you can learn more is aws.amazon.com/CodeStar. And Leo and I will actually be around here over on the side just after this to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you very much.